Hello there, YouTube. My name is Madness. I may not sound quite so similar as I usually do. I have screamed, cajoled and jeered my voice out this weekend, so for the moment, please bear with me. However, this is our mighty Kerbal space program. As you can see, it has been quite some time since I've done one of these videos, and I've not been completely remiss in actually playing this game. I have actually done some stuff. You see here, Barry the Orbiter is in place around the planet. To be honest, there's not much more than that. I have placed a satellite further out, but I recently lost the feed on that when I tried to view it in real time, so I don't quite understand what goes on there. Our job is indeed to try and make our way to the moon. There is the moon. There is the furthest up I have ever been. This is the Janeway Mark IV. Now, I haven't been my most successful recently. I tried to make one of these videos a while back and it completely and utterly failed. So, this time, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do this properly. I've had some advice from people whilst I've been away, most notably Sam, who has told me some various other ways of getting into orbit, which is basically just trying to kill my engines down a little bit when I get to my periapsis gets to a certain point. So today's goal is kind of to get into orbit, get into a stable orbit with the vast majority of our fuel still unburnt, because we'll need that fuel in order to get to the moon. I have used a version of this rocket to get outside of Kerbin, the planet is Kerbin's sphere of influence, but that didn't go particularly well. This new model has solar panels and various things like that. I'm hoping just to be able to beam some science back, to be honest. I'm not intent on getting it back. Yeah, whatever, clear the launchway and proceed. It's only another version of the same rocket. Apparently we made multiple versions because, you know, saving money is not what the Kerbal Space Program does. We're all about results. Results are what we want, not money. We don't need money. We don't even have a budget. No, we're after science. Science! Oh, hurry up, loading screen. Right. So it is, as you can see, slightly wobbly. Let me turn on my SAS systems, throttle up the thrusters. Okay, why don't I have that firing at the same time? Let's have that firing at the same time. I think that was part of an experiment to see whether the firing actually did. No, let's just go forwards. We need as much thrust as we possibly can at this point. I believe once I reach about an altitude of 10,000, I take a 45-degree angle in the direction which I need to go. So for now I'm burning that liquid fuel like there is no tomorrow. But once my periapsis reaches a certain level, I will be cutting back on the thrusters and trying to coast more up into orbit, trying to conserve as much fuel as possible. This is actually the first time I've ever done this, so if it goes really badly, then, well, it'll go really badly. There's not much more to say on that. Okay. We have passed 10,000, and I've decided we're going this way. We are going this way. We're going north. Oh, that was probably a terrible way to go. But what the hell, right? That is about to disappear. Okay, what is my periapsis at? Apoapsis even, I apologise. Anyone who knows what the hell they're talking about, because I most certainly do not. That is not what we're about here at the Kerbal Space Program. We're about results, not knowledge. Results and science. Knowledge is separate to those. Now our apoapsis has begun to really rise. So, once we hit, say, 75,000, I'm going to be cutting right back on that thrust. I'm just cutting back on it now, because it's still rising, and at quite a phenomenal rate, actually. So, cutting back on my fuel is definitely a good idea. So I'll just need just enough to keep rising. Perhaps a good idea would be actually to conserve that liquid booster until a later stage. My liquid engines and fuel until a later stage. Now I'm just going to cut back on the throttling altogether. because as you can see, my apoapsis isn't changing an awful lot. It seems unlikely I'm going to be able to get to the moon with this now, but it's still a possibility and I'm still willing to give it a shot. So now we wait to get to the apoapsis, at which point we fire prograde, I believe the term is, we fire prograde towards our orbit in order to extend our orbit around the planet. From there, we can figure out where exactly it is we need to fire to get to the moon. In exactly 10 seconds, I'm going to start burning, and then this is going to start extending around the planet. Hopefully. Wish me luck, YouTube. 2, 1, go. Okay. I may have slightly missed it, actually. I may have been slightly late. We are soon going to run out of liquid fuel. Okay, and go. Now I may have actually just mucked this one up, because that is not extending around the planet in any way like I was hoping it would. Yeah, this isn't extending exactly as I hoped it would at all. And there's probably not even much science I can get back from this. I've burned far too much fuel already. I'm halfway through my second to last rocket. This is basically a failed mission. But what we have learned, dear people, is that once we reach a certain point, a very small amount of fuel is all we actually need to get into orbit. Now, how does that one actually abort this? Well, for one thing, I could just revert the flight back to launch. That's basically like save scumming, but I'm not exactly that fussed. This isn't costing... I'm not exactly losing anything by doing this. I'm only losing a bit of time. Like the point, I'm not losing any money for losing that rocket. I'm basically just losing time and a little bit of my pride. However, I can sound slightly like John Hurt. I forgot to turn on my SAS. Thankfully, that wasn't seem to be a problem. So this time, we want to go that way. We want to go towards the 90 degrees, because that makes much more sense, if only I'd thought about it. 8,500 feet, wobbling slightly, that's my fault, don't worry about it. This isn't construction. There are no construction issues here. No, they've been made by the mighty Kerbals. This rocket is constructed perfectly. It is a miracle of modern science, and nobody can say it isn't so. So we are still rising at about 25% throttle. But we are reaching our apoapsis faster. I really am getting nowhere fast. I'm on my third to last rocket. I'm still not particularly pleased with this, but my apoapsis is currently at 70,000 feet and rising, and I'm on a tiny amount of thrust. We're still rising, so it is a plus. Once I get closer to my apoapsis, not on top of it, I will burn prograde. Hopefully that will really spin me around the planet. I'm moving against the planet's orbit. That might not actually be the best way to do it. But that's the way Barry the Orbiter goes, so if it's good enough for Barry, it's good enough for me. Now, there's the space music, which means I can cut out entirely. I can cut out that thrust, and my apoapsis stays exactly where it was. We have a minute to get there. I have bugger all fuel left in this. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing wrong here. I've said before, I'm not exactly the kind of guy who likes to dig through tutorials, watch 50+ minute tutorials on how to get somewhere. I'm not that heavily into the game that I want to do that. That might seem conceited, but that's just me, that's just the way it is. And things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. Burn that way. There we go, that is actually a much more acceptable rate for my orbit to be firing out at. There we go. There we go, quick switch over. It's still widening even if I go at a lower thrust. But my problem is, I'm reaching my apoapsis now. I kind of need to do this before I reach my apoapsis. So for that reason, I'm jumping back to about 45 degrees. Pulling back on the thrust in order to increase my height upwards. It's a tricky balancing issue, this, actually. There we go. My time to apoapsis is increasing ever so slightly. I'm going to need that time in order to actually extend myself around the planet. But again, I'm not fond of this staging. Of the guides I've read, I'm sure I'm doing this correctly. Now, it's basically taking all I have just to get into orbit. So the chances that Janeway is actually going to make it to the moon quite slim. There is my orbit. My orbit has been realised. I have no fuel. I have basically no fuel at all left. With this fuel, I'm going to have to try and break out of Kerbal's orbit towards the moon. This is going to be nigh impossible. But we work with what we have. Set the moon as a target. Now, waiting for launch windows is not something I've ever really done before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. Now that pink thing is presumably pointing at where the moon is. I really have no idea what I'm doing. It's entirely possible I might be able to just slingshot around the planet now. You will fire when ready. Let's just go. Let's just go for it. I'm going to go this way. I've decided. That is where the Janeway wants to go. That's where Janeway shall go. We're on our final stage. Sailing off for the moon, and our final stage. This is obviously the best thing we could have hoped for. Okay. I am burning towards my periapsis, yes. Now if I keep burning, it'll just flick round. And hopefully point straight at the moon. Honestly, at this point I will settle for crashing into the moon, because at least that's close enough. I'll settle. Hell, I'll settle for a near miss. Oh my god, what is that? What is that? Oh, whoa, hello there. Okay, well, that happened, and that was my last engine. All we can do now is watch me fly off into space. Let's just time warp away. Let's do the time warp away. Bye, moon. There's the moon. Well, that makes me feel somewhat majestic, but there's not much I've got out of this, to be perfectly honest. This is pretty much a near miss as far as space is concerned, because look how close the moon is. I'm pretty damn close to the moon. Ah, there we go. I can at the very least transmit that data. At least this isn't a complete duck. I can get another 9 signs from that. Say goodbye, Mr. Moon. Off we disappear into the darkest reaches of space. And there we go. That was my best shot so far. I at least passed by the moon. Pretty close. Close enough for me. Closest I've ever been. I'll give it one more shot. But first, I might want to have a little fiddle around with what I've actually got here. Yeah, so I'm on this slightly larger tank. And this rocket. And let's see what that can do. This is now the Janeway 5. 5th time lucky? I hope so. God, these loading screens take a long time. I was still unsure as to going whether east or west is the best idea really when it comes to achieving orbit. I really don't know, actually. I would like to speed this up, but that makes those things buckle quite horribly, so I'm not going to. Instead, I'm just going to cut out as much of this as possible so I can say all I like. Boobies, pubes and boobies. We shall call this the spectacular voyage to the moon, or as it is known, the first tit of the sky. Cool, go. Now then, I've got to make my choice. East or west, east or west, east or west, east or west. Ooh, let's go east. It worked last time. Just. We're not going the full 45 degrees though. I'm going to put myself at about 75. 65 actually, that's actually 65 degrees. So, yeah, science isn't about being precise. No, science is about gut feeling and instinct. Basically, science is a shonen manga. I believe! Datebayo! Zawardo. Really, actually. It seems as if I'm using too many stages getting up here. I mean, my apparatus is far enough away that I can probably throttle back, or throttle right back. Be a bit more fuel efficient now. I'm just going to have to apologise immediately to Sam, because he gave me this advice with the best of intentions, and I have certainly squandered that knowledge that he imparted to me. So I'm very sorry, Sam. I'm just a really, really bad scientist. Right, well, that's the music. So I could probably cut right back on the fuel now and just drift up towards my apoapsis. I suppose really, now I think about it, what I've been saying is actually quite a bit of bunkum, because The stats are that you use something like 90% of the fuel just breaking orbit, just getting into orbit and breaking out of the planet's gravity well. And that is kind of what I'm doing. I just need a bit more once I get up there. That is my problem at the moment, is I don't have quite about enough when I'm getting into orbit. There are various things that would actually help this. Things such as asparagus staging, for instance, something that is probably quite familiar to a lot of Kerbal Space Program users. The problem with that is, since I'm playing in the career mode, the campaign mode, rather than the sandbox mode, I don't have access to those at the moment, not until I get more research and more science. So I need that more science before I can get those things and then happily rocket my way out of the solar system on a shoestring. Now, I think I'm going to say that's me close enough to my apoapsis that I can boost around and really extend my orbit. Let's go. Good grief. Okay, maybe I was using far too much fuel just to get into orbit before. Because once you get up here, so much easier, it appears. I'm 2 minutes away from apoapsis. I still need to continue thrusting, but not a lot. And that's what she said. Thank you. It's okay. I'll be here all week. Okay, so orbit is basically close to being achieved. Not sure. Oh, I've got bugger all fuel left anyway. But I'm not using a lot of it. And I am just about to achieve my orbit. So, in a minute, will happen. Here it comes, here it comes. Hey, that is one orbit. That is an orbit. I've seen a few orbits in my time. That is most definitely an orbit. I'm just going to start. Let's go. This is our last chance. And there goes the staging. Okay, let's go. This may not work. This may work. That's fine. Now, if you look, I'm really throttling back, and it's not really decreasing that speed that it's coming out quite by a large amount at all. So obviously I can really afford to not thrust quite as hard as I thought I had to. Of course, I'm already very low on fuel. So it might just be this one's failed as well. But I am trying. I am most certainly trying. Very trying. I'm not about to actually hit the Barry, am I? No, Barry's going the same way as I am. I'll just intersect him quite closely. Ah. Okay. Apparently Janeway's coming back. Apparently Janeway's going to be coming back to Earth. Very, very close past there. Interesting. I'm going to have some very, very odd satellites before I'm done. Before I'm through with this. I'm obviously spending too much somewhere. It's probably to do with the stages in the orbit. I'm not paying enough attention to where I should actually be thrusting out of my orbit. I should presumably be doing it at the highest point, at my periapsis. Sorry, my apoapsis. I'm kind of doing it at the periapsis at the moment, which is probably a terribly bad idea, because I'm just extending my apoapsis out until it whips around and then fires out, which seems to be a very, very fuel-inefficient way of doing things. Well, that's that then, I'm afraid. I wanted to do... The problem with these Kerbal Space Program videos is I kind of have to do something in them, and that's kind of not what happened here. And I have tried, and it's all very complicated, and I'm shit, and I'm really sorry. If you guys do have any helpful hints, please leave them. You guys do have them. You guys are much better at this game than I am. And I am determined to get to the moon. I'll leave this with you guys. You've seen what I've done. You've seen what I've done wrong, and you know exactly how it is I'm going to fix this. I'll see you next time. Hopefully it'll be a lot sooner than the gap between these last two ones. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Madness out.